YouTube, Cinemassacre, Normal Boots, That Guy with the Glasses, Reviewtopia, and more. Some of the greatest and most attractive websites ever thought up. You can review games, criticize movies, and analyze anything in a flash. Speaking of which, the world of online video reviews might as well be classified as pretty boy paradise. Because there's such a mess of strong, handsome, sexy men that you'll love the platforms even more. I've decided to make a list of the most attractive internet reviewers. There won't be any females on this list, just to give you a disclaimer. It's about reviewers, not reviewettes. So grab yourself a bag of Parmesan goldfish and a bottle of water and try not to reach through the fourth wall, because here we go.
Peanut Butter Gamer, is he hot or not? Yeah, that's hot. Jacques, whew, baby, that's hot. Dinosaur Bones, well, I don't know about that. They've been on the ground for a while. Not.
I'm in love with the man of the future. I've got a thing for my laptop computer. I'm so in love with the man of the future. The only one that brings me joy is my computer boy.
Game Dude. I know what you're all thinking. What's so hot about this guy? Isn't he just an AVGN clone? Well, he's number 10 on this list for the reason that he's a real-life yandere stalker boyfriend. That's pretty hot if you ask me. James doesn't have that going for him. And don't get me started on his heartwarming respect for nature.
I'd have more fun letting a gorilla hammer coconuts up my nostrils.
Sure thing, baby. And look at him play with those dinosaurs. He never abandoned his childlike sense of wonder. That's an admirable trait in any adult. He may have disappeared from the public eye after fleeing Canada, but he can shack up at Mimi Manor anytime he likes. I won't tell the authorities. Pinky swear. Anyway, next number.
I'm in love with the man of the future. I've got a thing for my laptop computer. I'm so in love with the man of the future. The only one that brings me joy is my computer boy.
The angry video game nerd, aka James Rolfe, and mother fricker Mike, aka Mike Mattei. They're two halves of a whole reviewer. How could I leave them off? James might be the nerd, but Mike is the man behind the nerd. James can do both. He can be a foul-mouthed, aggressive piece of man, and a precious little cinnamon roll who loves his family. What more could you want? Mike famously has a huge talent for writing comedy. If only the two of them had learned to explore their true romantic feelings for each other before it was too late. What red-blooded American girl wouldn't want to be in the middle of that drama? And before I get any complaints of the asshole-ish variety from you r/the Cinemassacre truth chuds, before you object to me putting Bimmy so high on this list, just know that you can kiss my
Ass!
Thank you, James. I'm so bad at being profane.
I'm in love with the man of the future. I've got a thing for my laptop computer. I'm so in love with the man of the future. The only one that brings me joy is my computer boy.
The champion of Earth himself, captain of Comicron 1, Linkara. His last name is Lovehog, so you know he's destined for true romance. He's a staunch male feminist and a defender of women everywhere. But don't let that lead you to assume that he's spineless and submissive. When internet meanies bully him, he stands up for himself. He doesn't take it lying down. His wokeness isn't merely performative either. He proves that he respects minorities by putting his money where his mouth is, dating trans women, and POC BBWs. He's a man of principle. In addition, he plays several fundamentally distinct characters. 90s Kid, Harvey Fine Voice, Bafo the Clown, Mechakara, and so on. You'd never get bored with a boyfriend like him around. It'd be like dating a dozen guys at once, all contained within one body. Imagine getting to be part of his rich lore. I could play around in Comicron 1 for hours. On top of that, he's an analog horror creator, and you know how I like my horror. Or maybe you don't. This comic may suck. But Louis Lovehog certainly doesn't.
I'm in love with the man of the future. I've got a thing for my laptop computer. I'm so in love with the man of the future. The only one that brings me joy is my computer boy.
Florian Himsel, aka Game Squid, aka Himsel Games, aka Anti-Reviews. He's a lesser-known reviewer you should all get to know, and I needed 10 spaces. He's probably better known for programming The Binding of Isaac, but when it comes to movies, he doesn't joke around. Even when the whole world is against him, he doesn't care. He picks fights with much larger YouTubers and doesn't back down. He's a true nonconformist, and that's what's hot about him. Other than the fact that he's a self-admitted sugar daddy, of course. I can never predict what his perspective will be, and that makes him 5 times as interesting as most other reviewers online. And how about that gorgeous, rich, velvety Austrian accent? It's enough to make a girl go, That's a sound he makes.
I'm in love with the man of the future. I've got a thing for my laptop computer. I'm so in love with the man of the future. The only one that brings me joy is my computer boy.
The Cinema Snob and Jay Bauman. It's a tie! 2 passionate lovers of sex pervert cinema who you know have got to be into all kinds of kinky stuff. Imagine how aggressively they'd hold your hand. Jay's only gotten better with age. Brad's gone bald, but it suits him. I could listen to him explain the plots of exploitation films for hours on end. His character's real name in the Cinema Snob movie universe is Craig Golightly. Kinda silly, isn't it? I wish he'd go lightly on me. I'm Holly. Do you get it? On top of that, Jay's polyamorous relationship with Mike Stoklasa and Rich Evans means 3 boys for the price of 1. That's what this girl calls a deal.
I'm in love with the man of the future. I've got a thing for my laptop computer. I'm so in love with the man of the future. The only one that brings me joy is my computer boy.
Nostalgia critic, you knew he'd show up sooner or later. Some of my more ignorant viewers might have wrongly assumed he'd be my number 1 choice. And while I am an expert on Douglas Darian Walker, it's only because of the sheer volume of work that he's been putting out consistently for over a decade. I like a man with a work ethic. And let's talk about how much energy he's got. He moves like a Disney character, effortlessly accentuating his every word with a corresponding gesture or bob of the head. Few modern men are so animated. Imagine how animated he'd be in the bedroom, if you know what I mean. Playing charades with him before winding down for sleep would be so much fun. I'd love to go one step beyond with him. Besides that, he can take a joke, and you all know how important that is for a comedic and funny woman like myself who enjoys engaging in a bit of old-fashioned ribbing. If you can't take a joke, then get out of here, snowflake. If you want to, I mean.
I fell in love with the man of the future. I've got a thing for my laptop computer. I'm so in love with the man of the future. The only one that brings me joy is my computer boy.
As much as I appreciate Doug and Lewis, Phelan might be my favorite member of the Channel Awesome crowd. A lot of his comedy is borderline incomprehensible to outsiders and funny only to himself, and he can get very annoying in an Adam Sandler doing a silly voice sort of way sometimes. But when he hits it out of the park, man, does he hit it out of the park. He's a man who lives in his own world, and that's the coolest thing I can think of. Listen to that distinct voice, so masculine, so Canadian, so aggressive, and how about that iconic... I wonder if he makes that sound in intimate situations. I can only imagine that Obscurus Lupa is one happy lady. What else can I say except they're the best?
I fell in love with the man of the future. I've got a thing for my laptop computer. I'm so in love with the man of the future. The only one that brings me joy is my computer boy.
Jontron, I'll never live down the extent to which I used to quote this man. We are all living the human condition, but he is speaking it. Whereas James Rolfe combined game reviews with gross-out B-movie comedy, John Jafari combined game reviews with alternative comedy, though still with a traditionally charismatic personality at the center. He's funny, he's got chest hair, and while I didn't approve of him involving himself in politics or listen to his debate with Destiny, he apparently outed himself as extremely racist. What more could you want in a man? Aaron Hansen tried to fill the sexiness vacuum left by Jontron with Danny Sexbang Avidan. But if you have to name yourself Sexbang, are you really sexy? Or are you just overcompensating because you'll never be John? Because you'll never be able to twerk like this? What else can I say except... Eck. That's a sound that Jontron makes.
I fell in love with the man of the future. I've got a thing for my laptop computer. I'm so in love with the man of the future. The only one that brings me joy is my computer boy.
Rebel Taxi, what can I say? He was the first good cartoon reviewer on this site, and I love a man who can draw. On top of that, he's a white Hispanic, so he's a little exotic, but not too exotic. Just what I want in a man. He was doing Y2K nostalgia before it was huge, and his videos take me back to being a teenage girl in the 2000s every time. You know, a teen girl who just got off watching Foamy the Squirrel on Newgrounds.com while signing a Bring Back Invader Zim petition, wearing a Jack Skellington hoodie and Happy Tree Friends tube socks purchased from Hot Topic during an Emily the Strange buy one get one 50% off sale, where she discovered Serenity Rose from Slave Labor Graphics comics while her overbearing but loving father restricts her from going to the My Chemical Romance / Limp Bizkit concert with a 5 years older than her boyfriend that constantly IMs on source stolen Palm and Z comic art over 56k modem American online trial discs on MySpace.com with the top 8 consisting of Tim Burton, Jack Sparrow, Eminem, Jesus Christ, and whatever angsty band is the hit new thing in Disney Adventures magazine, and spends all day filling out what Kingdom Hearts character are you quizzes only to complain she didn't get Riku and is unable to watch the 2003 MTV Awards because her deadbeat older brother is always hogging the living room TV playing Tony Hawk's Underground on his Halo Edition transparent green Xbox using a third-party Mad Catz airflow controller with a busted analog stick constantly leaning to the right, making anti-Semitic remarks on how Eric stole his Wicked McTwist over the helicopter in Hawaii footage. That kind of teen girl. On top of that, he landed himself an adorable pooner boyfriend so the two of them could share me in a relationship if they wanted. And before any of you libtard SJW woke cucks say anything, I'm using pooner in an affectionate, non-pejorative way. Plus, Neon Caffeine should be okay with it since he says offensive stuff about other people in his own videos, like when he made this video about... Is this about me? Before I get to number one, I'm gonna list a few honorable mentions. Nick Tendo, he's a cool guy and I feel we have a lot in common. Too much in common. A relationship between us would be redundant. The Critical Drinker, he's a real man, not some soy boy designed to appeal to modern audiences. But I simply can't tolerate a man who drinks beer. Oh, I can't even say it. That's a disaster waiting to happen. Why do you think prohibition is a thing? Todd in the Shadows, in the words of the Nostalgia Chick, reading dialogue written by Doug and Rob Walker, there's something about a guy who hides his face that's kinda sexy, you know? The Mysterious Mr. Enter, I love how emotional he gets about cartoons. He's just like me, but he's also asexual. I'm just not into asexual men. Sorry. Anthony Fantano, he's got the best teeth in the game. Too bad he's also a vegan libtard cuck. Chris Stuckman seems like he'd be a cool guy to hang around with, and I was turned on to some cinematic gems by his reviews of them. But he's a boring critic. He doesn't even do negative reviews anymore. He's a filmmaker now. Ew. Those who can't critique create, I suppose. Dr. Wolfula, he's pretty cool, but I'm not a furry. I'm not into Wolfulite boys. Count Jacula, he's a Chad, but he's also a Stanist. As a Christina, I simply can't tolerate that sort of thing in my home.
I fell in love with the man of the future. I've got a thing for my laptop computer. I'm so in love with the man of the future. The only one that brings me joy is my computer boy.
Jordan underneath. If any of you emophobic bigots try to deny it, how dare you? I'll never forget what an enchanting experience it was to discover his channel. I was a couple years into adulthood. My sense of wonder was slipping away from me. But he had looks, he had taste, he had imagination, and most importantly of all, he had atmosphere. He lives in his basement, but in a cool way. He took his shirt off once. Holy moly! He unfortunately chooses to wear a shirt most of the time. What a price to pay. Sadly, he's been out of the reviewing game for a long time, but I'll never forget the profound impact he had on me. How excited I was whenever he uploaded a new video. How authentically passionate he seemed about everything he talked about. He claims he was playing a character back then, but I'm sure his real self is just as delightful. He was always destined to be an artist, and not an art critic. And that's fine by me, but his reviews will always hold a special place in my heart. He's so... sensitive. Alright, video over. Ms. Mimi signing off.